Okay, Fabi, if you can post the link to the Facebook page on the chat, if possible. Thank you. All right, in 3 minutes, we'll get started.
Fabi, you have the link already? Fabi.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you post it on Facebook?
That's what I'm doing now.
Oh, okay. No problem. We're admitting more people to the conference.
All right, 2 more minutes.
I'm going on mute, Gushers.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Dill. You're on mute.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. Okay, in about 1 minute, we are going to get started. I would like to thank you and welcome you all.
Good morning. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, it is now 7:05 and we are about to get started. I would like to thank you all for coming here tonight. This is the Association of Haitian Professionals Health and Wellness Seminar. And I just want to introduce our facilitator. So it is an honor and a privilege to introduce our facilitator, Dr. Sandra Duval. Dr. Duval had served as an adjunct professor at several universities, including her alma mater, the George Washington University, where she earned her BA in sociology and secondary education, with an emphasis on bilingual education. Her research and publication focused on language, planning, and equity. The body of her work also includes curriculum development, professional development, and comparative education research. She has presented her work nationally and internationally, including in Aruba, Puerto Rico, Japan, and Hong Kong. And Dr. Sandra Duval has also worked in an array of educational settings from pre-K-12 to higher education. Dr. Duval is also one of the original founding members of the Association of Haitian Professionals. So welcome, Dr. Sandra Duval. You may be on mute. You are on mute.
It's a habit. I tell the students all the time. Good evening,
and your camera's off.
I am Sandra Duval. I am so delighted to be here with you this evening so we can partake in conversation. On behalf of AHP, I want to welcome you to our program. And AHP has been at the forefront for years to listening to the pulse of the Haitian community in the DMV area and different facets. The association is committed to addressing the disparities that exist too often for our communities, both in Haiti and in the US. So in this vein, this program, Mind Your Mental Health, exemplifies the commitment and the support that AHP has given to wellness in our community, especially to the most vulnerable. So often our children, our elders, those of us who are called often the sandwich generation, where we're taking care of kids and parents. So as we forge our way ahead, we want to make sure that we are active participant in determining our future. We don't want to be standing by, waiting for others to do it for us. I believe that we know best. And together, hopefully we can bridge what we know about science and practice. And tonight we'll be in great hands with the experts and hopefully find a source of comfort from each other, as well as a deeper sense of hope that we totally need nowadays. Without further ado, I'm gonna introduce our first speaker. And most of our conversation again tonight is going to talk about mental health, which has been an issue due to COVID as well as isolation. Our first speaker, Miss Dr. Leila Jean-Baptiste Francois. Dr. Francois was born and raised in Port-au-Prince, and she attended primary and secondary school at Sainte Rose de Lima, often known as LALU. She obtained her medical degree at the University d'État d'Haïti. Her first residency was at the Hôpital de l'Université d'État d'Haïti in Port-au-Prince, where she specialized and completed her training as chief resident in pediatrics. She then moved to the US and continued her training with a second residency and specialization in adult general psychiatry at the Westchester Medical Center Hospital in Valhalla, New York. Dr. Jean-Baptiste Francois has a special interest in mental care for both adults and children, as well as promoting awareness and educating health providers and the population at large. In addition, she is a member of the American Psychiatric Association and the Haitian American Psychiatric Association, known as HAPA, where she serves as an executive member in the Public Relations Subcommittee. Dr. Leila Francois resides in Westchester, New York with her husband, Dr. Dimitri Francois, and so also a psychiatrist, and their son. So I can't wait to hear what Dr. Francois has to share with us in order to give us what we need as we support ourselves as well as our families and communities.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leila, and Leila for everybody, please. I'm very happy, and thanks for the invitation. Very happy to be here with you guys tonight. And thank you, Sandra, for your kind words. I hope I live up to your expectations tonight. So let's just get into it. I just want this to be like a conversation among all of us in talking about how we can stay mentally healthy, especially during everything that's happening right now around us. So I kind of make a summary of a lot of recommendations from various psychiatrists, professors, recommendation for the mental expert at the CDC, at the World Health Organization, and at my hospital, things that we've kind of put together and make a small package. I'm going to try to say within the 10 minutes. I tend to talk a lot. So Sandra, please don't hesitate to just cut me off. So there's really like 8 important points that I want to emphasize tonight. Just to help us take care of ourselves mentally and give us the help that we all need, because we are surely going through unprecedented times and times that are very difficult for a lot of us. And I'm going to also try to incorporate things that are specific to us, Haitians, because I think it's important to address that as well. Because when I have Haitian patients, I try to do that as much as possible and try to address all the taboo and everything that surrounds mental health in the Haitian community. So the first thing I'd like to point out, and my first advice to everyone, in terms of what we can do to just stay mentally healthy, is that we have to be aware of what we are doing to ourselves and what we are exposing ourselves to. First, foremost, is like too much news is bad news, you guys. There's no reason for us to be on the news, listening to what's happening with COVID, what's happening with the pandemic, 24 hours. We don't need to be expert on COVID-19. None of us need to do that. There are experts on that, scientists, and they are working on it 24/7. Let them do that. Us need to protect ourselves. Listening to the news all day long, it's anxiety provoking. And my first advice always is like, too much news is bad news. I tend to tell people that choose like 2 sources that you trust. And I highly recommend still the CDC and the World Health Organization, and have those sites be your reference for things that you need to know, latest information and precautions. We've been dealing with this for a year now, so I think a lot of people already know what to do, the do's and the don'ts about the pandemic. There's no reason to know all the latest numbers, everything that's happening, and we are constantly bombarded by those things. And you have no idea how much this affects you on a daily basis. This creates a sensation of chaos, a sensation that there's not something normal is happening around us. So please, let's just turn off the news notification on your phones. Try that for a couple of days. You guys don't need to be, CNN doesn't need to have access to you guys directly 24/7. That's not normal. So let's try to try to ease the consumption, how we consume news every single day. My second advice would be, we are told that we have to practice physical distancing. We all know that now. 6 feet distance, stay at home, do not mingle, do not invite people from not from your household. But that doesn't mean we need to be socially isolated. The physically distancing does not mean being socially isolated. We don't need to be alone. That's when social media helps, because even as we are staying at home, we can still connect. I'm connecting with all of you tonight. We can still connect with family members. This is the perfect time because we have a lot of time on our hands, especially if we're working at home, or people who are not doing as much as they used to do because of the pandemic. It's a good time to just connect with people we haven't seen in a long time, and use social media in that way, as opposed to always letting social media dictate what, feeding you things that you don't really need in your daily life. My other advice would be to focus on what we can control. As professionals, we tend to forget to do that. But it's important to control what you can control. In terms of your daily routine, that you have control over. It's better to focus on that, to try to stay organized as much as possible. Have a routine of waking up at the same time, sleeping at the same time. Organize your work time, rest time, things that you do for fun, eating and stuff like that. If we have a routine and we are focused on controlling that, then we're not using our positive energy into other things, into fear and other things that can create more anxiety in our daily lives. And another, if I can relate to my son, my kids, when us adults are organized, the kids are also organized. When they see the parents having a schedule, waking up at the same time, doing what they need to do for work, having time for the kids, this is a way, because the kids mirror what they see around them, and this is a way for us to show them, in the mix of all this chaos, that we are in control. So this is important, that to just focus on the things that we can control on the daily basis. Another thing that I think it's important, and another advice that I've gathered from all my research in this fear versus reality. A lot of people, um, I don't want to use the word dramatize, but a lot of people focus on things that are actually not real. I have a lot of patients coming to me anxious, stressed out over things that's not even related to them. And my job is just let them know is that you are fearful of something that is not real. The reality is much bigger than your fear. It's important not to let the fear cloud your reality, and live with fear and live with anxiety, as opposed to realizing, okay, there's a pandemic. Okay, there's a lot of people that are dying. That's true. But when you think about it, there's about almost 26, 27 million people. I don't even know the number now that were infected with COVID. 400, close to 500 have died. Mostly people, elderly, people with pre-existing conditions and stuff like that. So the reality of an 18-year-old coming to my office and dying with anxiety because she feels that she's gonna contract COVID and she's not gonna make it. My job is to just show her the numbers, show her the facts. Facts are most likely she's not gonna die of COVID. And, and emphasizing that and focusing on that is important. Usually when you really think about it, your reality, it's much bigger than your fear. And what applies to you has nothing to do with what you actually fear. So that's important too. And something that it's an advice that actually my mom gave me a long time ago, because she's somebody that's very active, that's involved in a lot of things. Helping others. I cannot emphasize more how when you help others, you actually help yourself. You lift others, and now you have, I call it like a crew. You have an entourage of people lifting you up as well. So this, now that we have so much time on our hands, we can go to work, there's no entertainment. It's the time to get involved, get active, volunteer, find a purpose, find something that drives you, because that takes your positive energy and focuses on something that's going to lift you up, as opposed to focusing on the dying, the I cannot do this, I cannot work, I got fired, everything, nothing is working. Help others. You can volunteer virtually now for almost everything. Most of us here are probably bilingual, trilingual. You can teach somebody else to learn a language. You can tutor a kid. There's a really wonderful website that I love. It's called pointsoflight.org, because it creates like a global culture for volunteering. And it just gives you so many options of things that you can do if you want to volunteer. So that's another thing that I like. And then something as simple as checking on your neighbors, checking on family members, helping a older person who cannot go out and get her own groceries. Little things like that that makes you feel important, but that it actually lifts you up, as opposed to doing things that actually put you down. So helping others is super important. And then, we are a whole, mind, body, everything, it's connected. Staying physically fit, it's extremely important. I cannot emphasize it more. Right now, if somebody was thinking about quit smoking, now is the time to do it. We have a pandemic of a virus, which is mostly a respiratory disease. If you are gonna quit smoking, now is the time, really the time to do it. So try to avoid smoking, avoid alcohol, I'm 1 minute left. Oh my God, alcohol. I knew it. And stuff like that. And then, physical activity, just try to have the healthiest life that you can have. I'm going to take 2 more minutes because I want to finish, and my last points are important. Things you can do, distract yourself also, very important. I highly recommend meditation. I recommend yoga. I love, love, love the free the free meditation site called UCLA Meditation. It's free. You can use it. I use it every day in my life. It helps a lot. Mindfulness also is something that you can do. I can talk about it when the questions comes up, because we are running out of time. And UCLA meditation is free. I like it. And the free, not least, let's try to stay positive. I'm doing this thing with my son where we have to come with a positive thing that happened to us, 5 positive things that happens to us every day. And we cannot repeat what we said the day before. It's a fun exercise, because then we realize, I'm gonna stop here because my time is already over. But if I have more things I can talk about, but we can do questions, and then we can talk about how we can apply all of this to the Haitian community. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank
much.
you, Sandra.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So thank you for the tips. It brings a quote to me. If you listen to your body when it whispers, you won't have to hear it scream. So listening to our bodies by making sure that we are mindful, we stay grateful, and actually acts of gratitude, volunteering, rewires your brain. So it's not just something you do to feel good. It is actually rewiring your brain. And happiness is a habit. So the more you think about what you're grateful for, the more you're rewiring your brain to be happy, and the less anxious that you'll be. And as Dr. Francois mentioned, having a ritual to do so, she does it with her son, and company to do those things is useful. Thank you so much. Tomorrow I have to remember to keep doing my journal, my gratitude journal. All right, so we'll go to our next presenter. And we have Dr. Kwaku, and I will introduce Dr. Rachel Kwaku. She earned a Doctor of Nursing Practice degree from the University of San Francisco. She holds a Master of Business Administration and a Master of Nursing Administration degree from Holy Names University, a Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree from Howard University, and a Nurse Executive Advanced Board Certification with the American Nurse Credentialing Center. Currently, Dr. Kwaku is a director in nursing at Dignity Health, French Hospital Medical Center in California. Throughout the coronavirus pandemic, Dr. Kwaku has been hands-on with her frontline team, critically leading crucial departmental strategy for safety and infection prevention. Among other things, Dr. Kwaku is a professor at the University of San Francisco, has volunteered with the Global Medical Brigade in Nicaragua, and has volunteered at the Albert Schweitzer Hospital in Latibonite Valley in Haiti. Oh, I must tell you, thank you. I heard so much about that hospital, and it happens to be in my family's town, my grandmother's town. So thank you. All right. Dr. Kwaku will continue the sharing and our conversation. This is a time for you to definitely take notes as the speakers are presenting, so that you can have questions for them later. Without further ado, please, Dr. Kwaku, let's hear from you.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Greetings and good evening. I am so honored this evening for the privilege to speak with you, the Association of Haitian Professionals, regarding the subject of self-care aspects to ensure mental wellness, especially during this long season of coronavirus. There's so many angles to discuss mental health right now, We can discuss it as a global pandemic, as an essential worker, as a non-essential worker. And who said what you're doing is not essential anyway? As a government official who has the responsibility and safety for their constituents. We can discuss it as a teacher trying to learn and teach Zoom, or as a student trying to learn through Zoom, or as a parent trying to work and teach the Zoom at the same time. Or how about family members of patients with coronavirus, or the patient themselves, or even being the survivor family member of a person who had COVID-19? So many different angles that I can discuss tonight are the people who lost their jobs. But the angle of which I'm going to present this evening is how to deal with interactions with this virus by doing self-care. Self-care is just so important. It's so important during this season. And let me tell you why. COVID-19 showed its face in America over 450 days ago, and it is still moving forward very tragically and rapidly. This has truly been a viral attack on the globe, on America. It is like a viral war. People are over it. Essential workers are tired. Non-essential workers are tired. People who aren't working are tired as well. And it affects everyone in different ways that can influence their psyche as well. There is a need. The need is to acknowledge the power and consequence of the pressures in this sustained traumatic environment. Prolonged traumatic environments can host conditions which cultivate psychiatric disorders. This is real. This is very real. All of this that we are dealing with and we're talking about this evening, the potential psychological response is so huge. Mental health concerns should not be something we dismiss in this season because it's a taboo and you don't want to talk about it in the Haitian community. Depression, increased anxiety with minor stimulation, acute stress disorders should not go unchecked. This is the Association of Haitian Professionals. So to me, that means many things, and they are all so deep. First of all, you're Haitian. That means you are strong, you're courageous, you're determined, you're motivated, you're humble and proud at the very same time for what you have accomplished. You are an encourager, a motivator, a mentor, and helping hands. You are all of these things to all the people, to your family, your colleagues and peers, to your friends, and to the community at large. I see you and I know you. You are the ones that people turn to with questions and with problems, and you will either solve the problem or you will direct the resources to mitigate the solution. This is what we do. And because of this, I will be sharing the importance and relevance of self-care about your health. When you think about self-care, what do you think about? Caring for yourself. Correct. That is correct. And that was easy, right? So now my next question is this. Who here has taken the time at least once a month to do something for yourself by yourself? Who has done something weekly, once a week for yourself and by yourself? And what about daily? You think that's selfish, huh? To do something for yourself daily? Now, for everyone, this will look different. But just to reiterate, I am speaking about your own personal time. But be very mindful that family time with your spouse, your children, and parents is imperative to peaceful success if they live with you in the same household. Now, if they don't live with you in the same household, listen to what I'm saying. During this COVID-19 pandemic, I tell you, miss them now and see them later. Because if you see them now, you might be missing them later if somebody got exposed. You hear me? So I'm going to share with you a term that I coined. It's called MODAP, MOHDAP, MODAP. It's my own health during a pandemic, my own help and health during a pandemic. And the reason why we say my own help is because many times we have to encourage ourselves. And if we wait for people to do it, it mostly will not get done. Let's take a moment and define the word own. Not being funny, but just to define it according to the dictionary. Own as an adjective, it means belonging to oneself. As a verb, to have or to hold as a possession. As a pronoun, belonging to oneself or by oneself and independent of assistance. The reason I went through these definitions is because I want you to understand that you are responsible for owning and creating the joy that belongs to your own self. Now, I know someone who for her birthday or his birthday, whatever, you know, the greatest way they decided to celebrate their birthday is to clean their home and to do laundry, right? But that's her story. That is just, you know, people are different. So do people know how to relax? I ask themselves, I ask people this question, do you know how to relax? Can you spend time with yourself? Somebody challenged me back in 2003. And I was like, yeah, of course. But it was challenging to sit and not do something because I'm always busy doing something. But let me tell you, self-care, it is not selfish at all. If you don't have enough to share, how can you pour out and help others if you don't have enough for yourself, right? I'm going to share a theory with you. It's called self-efficacy theory, and it's created by a psychologist by the name of Albert Bandura. And it says your own belief in your capability to exercise control over your own functioning and over events that affects your life. So simply said, it is your own belief in your ability to succeed in a situation. So now I know you probably thought I was going to speak about meditation and massages and exercise and walks and things like that. But I'm going to present this with a different perspective. So self-care is the involvement of all of those things I just mentioned, yes, but the root of the enjoyment of self-care is how you see yourself and how you feel about yourself. So when you are doing those things that I just mentioned, you can enjoy it. Do you have confidence in yourself? Do you love yourself? It is truly where self-care begins. Bandura's study shows that high self-efficacy has been linked with numerous healthy benefits to daily life, like increasing resilience, for example. And resilience is the ability to adapt and cope to stressful stimuli. So, you know, you're living your life and you are, you know, going about your day and something happens. How do you handle that situation? How is your resilience level? To accomplish this, there are four keys that I'm going to speak with you about to this theory of self-efficacy. And these keys, they determine how you allow yourself to come about with the outcomes. How do you see yourself? It is the perspective you establish in your mind. It is your seed of thought and how you roll the seed. The first key, performance outcome. How you performed in a previous situation and what you're telling yourself about it. If you didn't do so well, for example, are you telling yourself, oh, I'm just so horrible and I could never do this? Is that what you're saying? Or are you analyzing the situation and then you're going to take steps to do better next time? Vicarious experiences, that's the second one. And I know you've heard people say, oh, you're going on vacation, I'm going to live vicariously through you. Well, that is real. That's part of a theory. Because vicarious experience is how people around you are doing and what their experiences are. Because their experiences influence your own psyche. This is why you shouldn't be the most successful person in your inner circle of friends, and why you should have significant people in your life who like to do different things so you can be exposed to different cultures. And there was another study that expressed that people with healthy relationships, they have less heart attacks. And this is because healthy friends help people cope with stress. It relieves tension and create environments for conversation and brainstorm. That's why people say, show me your friends and I will show you your future. The third key, physiological feedback. We all receive sensations from our body. Our perception of this feeling, it interprets how we handle these experiences. For example, it's a very simple example, working out. There's some people when they work out and their muscles hurt, they say, oh, I get this, I'm not gonna work out, it's hurt, it's painful, right? And then there's some people when they work out and it hurts, the same pain, they say, oh, muscles are waking it up, let me push through it and work out even harder, right? And even Dr. Duvall was just reiterating, she said, when you listen to your body when it whispers so that you don't have to listen to it when it screams. All of these is part of, this is part of the theory. And then the fourth key is verbal persuasion, the external talk and internal self-talk. What are you telling yourself? What are you allowing people to feed into you? What are you listening to when somebody says, oh, you can't do that, you're not built for that, you don't have that, you're not smart enough, you're not tall enough, you're not this and that, whatever. What are you telling yourself? What are you listening to? What are you feeding yourself? Are you telling yourself, I am beautiful, I am intelligent, I am strong? All of this, what are you listening to? And all of that has to do, what I'm telling you has to do with self-care. So now with this new information, how can we be intentional with our own self-care. I will name a few. The one that I love the most, and it's inexpensive because it costs nothing except 20 minutes of your time. Take a walk. Go outside and take a walk. Now it's like 70 degrees where I am in California. If you live in Vermont somewhere, even New York or DC, and it's like below zero or something, put a coat on, a scarf and gloves, go for a walk. Or even stand by the window and then just open a window and get a breeze or something. Just have a moment to yourself. Meditate and have, your prayers and find peace in your spirituality. Enjoy reading books and journals and magazines and exercise at home using your own body weight as resistance. Coloring books for adults, whatever it is that you can do for 20 minutes of your day, every day, do that to support your mental health. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kwaku. Thank you. Great, great advice. Excellent advice. As we've known for many studies, one study that is very important to me is the Harvard study on happiness, which states that good genes are great, but guess what? Joy is a greater predictor of long life and well-being. And how do you find joy? By all the things that Dr. Kwaku mentioned, taking time for yourself every day, every week, and squeezing it in. Self-care is not selfish. I always tell people you cannot give what you don't have, right? And as the stewardess do at the airport and the plane, put your mask on first, then help others. Those are not easy habits because as women, we're nurturers. We have the tendency to make sure everybody's okay before we take care of ourselves. But again, we cannot give what we don't have. So if you're a little hesitant about giving yourself that 20 minutes a day, just remember you're bringing longevity to your life so that you're there for those who care for you. So the Harvard study is it's one of the longest study in the world, probably the longest study. It's been going on for 80 years. 80 years, you heard me right, 80 years. And what the study said is that surprising finding is that our relationship and how happy we were in our relationships has a powerful influence on our health. So when we meet relationships, it could be relationship with parents, child, friends, significant other, husband, wife, church, family members, neighbors, but our connection to people, all kinds of people. And so if you're hesitant, it's like taking vitamins. It's like doing something that will pay later in terms of being there for your family and for yourself. So try to remember the advice of Dr. Kwaku. Start today, 20 minutes, maybe start it once a week, and hopefully you'll get to every day. It's a gift to yourself and it's a gift to those you love. Now we're gonna go to our next speaker. And I will introduce her, Dr. Cindy Dominique. Dr. Dominique earned her doctorate in clinical psychology from the American School of Professional Psychology in 2007. She is also an alumnus of Virginia State University, where she received her Bachelor of Science in Psychology and her Master of Education and Guidance and Counseling. Currently, Dr. Dominique serves as a licensed professional counselor with an extensive background working in community mental health centers, inpatient methadone clinic, and with is federal law enforcement. Her primary specialties include substance abuse, trauma, workplace bullying, violence, crisis intervention, and diversity and inclusion. Dr. Dominique is also one of the original founding members of the Association of Haitian Professionals, AHP. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Sandra. Much appreciated. I'm a little nervous because I hate public speaking. So I'm going to try to relax, and make sure I give everybody what they need this evening. So my topic for this evening is signs and symptoms, demographic impacted, and addressing a Haitian taboo from the Haitian American perspective. Now, I want to piggyback before I talk about my stuff with Dr. Layla when she talked about control. When you don't control is important because we can't control everything. So what I tend to do with people is talk about what are the things that you can control? What is in your circle of reference or inference? If you can't control all those other things out there, don't worry about it. Let's stay here. Now, some of the signs and symptoms of issues with mental health may include headaches, and Haitians, we tend to somaticize our illnesses. We don't talk about psychological issues. We'll say, well, we have a tête fait mal, something else, douleur, no, in our backs. We might have tension headaches and difficulty sleeping, changes in our appetite, difficulty concentrating, and intrusive thoughts. Those are some of the indicators that there is something going on with your body emotionally and physically. And I did a presentation last year where I talked about if your psychological health is not right, then your physical health is not right. If your physical health is not right, then your psychological health is definitely going to be impacted because the mind and body are definitely connected to each other. Now, for being a Haitian American, in 1998, I went to therapy. And my sisters and everybody else thought I was mad to go to therapy. Well, Cindy, why do you need to do this? Why do you need to do that? Because I was dealing with a lot of stress and it was manifesting in a physical form. I have eczema, and eczema is highly associated with asthma, and it's exacerbated by stress. Who had eczema patches all over her face, all over her body? Me. So I had to change it up and do something different. And therefore, that was the time that I decided to go to therapy. And actually, I still go to therapy. I have my own therapist. I saw her last Friday. So I would like to practice what I preach. I go to therapy. I tell people the importance of therapy. And my clients actually, I have clients from all over, so many different countries. I have men, I have women, I have non-binary clients, I have Indian, I have East Asian. I have so many different clients, and that's the beauty of therapy. And when you reach out and you tell people the value of therapy, and if I'm the first line of defense, then I'm going to try to make it a place where people can come to and feel safe enough to continue going to therapy. I use my sense of humor a lot as a way to connect with people. And Dr. Layla and Dr. Rachel talked about connections. When you make that connection, it's about getting your foot in the door. And once you have that foot in the door approach, then you can open it wider and then get that person into therapy. But you have to have small little steps and see, how can I connect with this individual? So, as I noted, I do go to therapy, but it can be, a lot of people don't think therapy is necessary. Well, I'm not crazy. It has nothing to do with you being crazy. It's just an outlet, another outlet, a non-judgmental, someone who really doesn't know you, and they could get information to support you in a way. It's not your family and they're saying this and they're saying that and your friends and everybody's giving you opinions. It's not about opinions. It's about information. Like Dr. Rachel noted, it's about facts. It's about evidence. And how does it bring you to this place, to this place? And when I was identifying a name for my business, for a minute, I thought about metamorphosis, because you think about the transition from the caterpillar to the beauty of a butterfly. But I didn't go with that. I went with Life Change Psychological Services instead. But it is about life change. And that's what I want people to take out of it when you go to therapy. It's about changing your life, changing your thinking, so that way your behavior can change. Now, Dr. Layla and Dr. Rachel identified so many different things, so I may sound a little redundant. Talking about social support. When you connect with people, it feeds you. And Dr. Rachel noted this. Connection is so important. We are social beings and social animals. When you think about wolves, when you think about elephants, travel in packs, travel in herds, we're not meant to be isolated or by ourselves. So remember to connect with the people that you know and the people that you love. And be mindful about the people who give bad energy, because there are a lot of emotional vampires out there and they will suck the life out of you. So you have to be protective of your space. Earlier, Dr. Ladle noted not watching the news. I don't watch the news because I deal with all this stuff on a daily basis, and being a Black woman in the United States, I don't want to deal with that. So I watch a lot of comedy, and I'm really a court jester as a professional. Yes. And that's what I do, because it is important to use the resources that we have innately, and a sense of humor always lowers your blood pressure. So that is my job, to help people. Also faith-based, and I think someone said spirituality. And I would like to say the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, because it keeps you grounded and it helps change your perspective, in the sense that you can't control everything. So that's why it's so important. What are the resources? What are the things available to you to help you to deal with all the things that life brings us on a daily basis? Exercise. I like to eat and I like to sleep. So exercise, I don't know about that, but it is important to be outside. I have a dog. My dog, he makes me walk for 45 minutes. So I guess you can call that exercise, but 45 minutes 3 times a day. And with that, it's a connection and I'm getting exercise. So if you have any pets, I don't have any children, but so my dog is my baby. He is that connection that I have every single day. And of course, my loved ones and my friends and everybody else. But my dog, if you have a cat, if you have any pets, they really help connect you and stay grounded. I also talked about connection with my sorority. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, as Madam Vice President Harris is. So my line sisters and I, we're on a group meet all the time, cracking jokes and making fun and supporting each other. That's what we do. And it's about connecting and having those support systems. So when I'm going through something emotionally, I reach out. I used to isolate, but I can't keep isolating, because then it's not good for me. And I tell my clients, if I'm going to practice what I preach, so what I'm telling you is important for you to do as well. And I was rushing through, but those are most of the things that I wanted to say. And I know we have a lot, we don't have much time left. So I wanted to make sure that I'm mindful about the time. And thank you everyone for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Cindy Dominic. Again, another set of great advice and important looking at signs. Often we don't have the resources, so we ignore signs of depression because we had to keep on keeping on. We had to keep on going. We had to keep it moving, because that's what we do. And often we have no choice but to keep it moving. But as we keep it moving, we have to definitely to listen to all the specialists, all the experts on this panel regarding the need to connecting to others, connecting to nature. As Dr. Dominique says, she does with her dog, walking outside. All the experts talked about walking. That's connecting to nature as well. If you do it with others, it's excellent too. And connecting to self, spirituality. That's very important. So if you can remember those things, connection to others, connection to self, connection to spirituality, the transcendence, if you want to call it that, are important in terms of self-care. So one thing we have to remember is strength doesn't come from what you can do. It comes from overcoming the things you once thought you couldn't do and becoming a priority in your life. So it may seem hard now, and that's not strength if you only think about the easy things. But if you reach out to an expert when you're facing depression to help you walk through it, hopefully in 6 months, things you couldn't do will become possible. So now we are opening to Q&A. I think we're asked to put your questions in the chat. Is that correct?
Yes, we do have two questions on the chat. Would you like me to read them or would you prefer to do it?
Yeah, you can read them.
Okay, all right. Question number one. Are there any positive or negative correlations to one's mental wellness / health from the foods we consume? I'm not sure who wants to answer that.
Yes, I can start. And the answer is yes, for many different reasons. The nutrients that you feed your body, you're feeding your cells. It's not just the value of the feel good in your mouth. You have comfort foods. We all know about comfort foods. And the question is, why is it called comfort foods? Well, first of all, it feels good, soft foods and whatever it is in your mouth, but it also is related to neurotransmitters, right? When it stimulates the neurons and neurotransmitters in your mind. And so the foods that you eat, the studies show, and I did see the question earlier, so I was like looking and trying to, so I could connect a study, because I'm very much into, what research says and not opinions, because opinions, it doesn't matter, right? And so they're talking about the neurotransmitters. So when you eat a healthy meal, it makes you feel better because your cells have what it needs for the day and the activities of what you do. So you need the food, healthy, well-balanced diet for your cells, right? So you can have the vegetables and all that. You have to stay hydrated. If you have, let's say, a lot of caffeines and a lot of, people who have caffeine all day, it can make you fidgety. There's different reasons for, the various foods that you eat and how it makes you feel. So the answer is yes, it does. I would have wished to be able to connect a research study with it, but the answer is that it does correlate with your mental wellness and how you feel.
Thank you. I'm gonna take the next question from Fabiola Dumas. They were coming from our Instagram. Do you want to share the question with us, Fabiola?
Okay, Fabiola, you're muted. Just unmute yourself, please. All right, so while she gets herself together, maybe we can take the next question on the board here.
For sure.
Yeah, we have a question from Corky. How do we overcome our cultural upbringing? In the Haitian community, we are raised to think about others first.
That's pretty deep. I could start speaking, and then others can jump in as well. That's a pretty serious question because if you're raised Haitian in the Haitian culture, you are not your own. Like whatever you do has nothing to do with yourself. It has everything to do with family, and your family is not even the people that you like, your brothers and sisters and parents. Your family is your cousins, first, second, third cousins, and then the people in the neighborhood, right? And then if you are a Christian on top of that, then there's principles of giving and sharing, and values in Christianity on that. So that's a whole another exponential level, right, of giving. I am a very strong, it took me a while, but I'm a very strong supporter of self-care. And self-care is not selfish. Doing for yourself is not selfish. And even now I think about it a lot when I want to do something for myself. Sometimes I've even had to, go to, different people so that I can get counsel on things that I want to do for myself, right? But it's very important that you remember that just because you're doing things for yourself, it doesn't mean that you don't care about others. If you don't replenish, if you don't fill yourself, then there's no way that you can really pour out. You're pouring out nothing. You're giving out of nothing, which is going to cause frustration. And so, how do you overcome the cultural upbringing? I believe is just talking to yourself and understanding what makes you happy and where your balance is, and it's just going to take time. And that's with anything. That is with anything. You have to just, even some of the cultural intricacies, like, do you really think that if you have the hiccups and then you take a piece of string from clothes and then you put it, you know what I'm talking about, right? You put a little saliva and you put it on your forehead. Really, what is the research behind that? There's so many different cultural, elements that we really need to think about and see the value of it and see what we can do, the truth in it and what we can do to see ourselves in it. Because you have to be well to be able to help others. So what I shared earlier is not just because I just made that up or anything like that. I'm a firm believer in that.
And the analogy that Dr. Duval noted earlier about the airplane putting the mask on yourself, that's what I tell my clients. So while you're trying to fidget with somebody else, then two people could go down. Whereas if you're focused on yourself, then you can help other people. But if you have nothing to give, how can you give to anybody else? And as Dr. Rachel noted, selfish equates self-preservation. And we're taught, don't think about yourself. Don't think about yourself. Think about the community versus the individual. But sometimes you have to pull it in and focus on the individual in order to assist the community.
Thank you, Dr. Kwaku,
And
Dr. Dominique. Oh, Dr.
and yes, and if I may add, I think Dr. Kwaku and Dr. Dominique said everything about this question. It's just that as a community also, we have to lift each other and help each other understand the cultural dynamic that exists amongst us, and us, with the knowledge that we have, reach out to others and get them to understand a different point of view, different side of things. So I think it's important for us to have like a sisterhood, a community, always have a community aspect in terms of what we do and how we can reach to people. And because the cultural issues that we deal with are not going to go away easily. They are rooted. They are very deep. So it's a non-stop work on educating people, talking about things, and letting our brothers and sisters see things in a different way, in a way that they are not naturally inclined to think about it. So it's our role as well to just talk about things freely, openly, as much as we can.
Thank you.
If I can just add one more thing. Taking care of yourself or saying no, if somebody asks for something, doesn't mean that you don't care. And you don't say, okay, no, peace out. You have a conversation. If you're giving the fish all the time, then, you're just giving fish and meeting the need at that moment. But if you teach the people, teach the community how to fish, then it's going to be better for everybody as a whole.
Thank you. We have a couple more questions in the chat. One is, I think we've answered, is how do you deal with mental health when the source of the issue is apparent? Self-preservation, and self-preservation. The other question is, how do you deal with mental health and when you have to go see a therapist through your job? Can they use it against you?
So if I may, a lot of agencies and organizations have the internal process, which is EAP, or Employee Assistance Program. And they might have a set amount of sessions that the individual will go through, either 6 or 12, but they are confidential as well. So the job, find out whether you went or know any information. It may be a little bit different for law enforcement, but for the most part, if you're going through your job seeking services through the EAP through your job, it's confidential, 100% confidential, because people could lose their license because of it.
Okay. And Fabiola, that was a question you posed coming from, I think, I don't remember what it said was.
From Instagram.
Okay, can you post the answer that Dr. Dominique just shared?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
May we go back to one of the initial questions? I know you said self-preservation. The question was, how do you address a parent? Can you repeat that question?
Oh, sure. How do you deal with mental health when the source of the issue is apparent?
Yeah. Okay. there has to be communication. I just want I just want to be clear what the question was. So when the source is the parent, okay. Yeah, so all those things that you just said, I just, it's kind of different, you know, in the Haitian community. You know, the parent, it's like, I'm grown, right? I'm very grown, mature, everything. But when I have to confront, you know, my dad is very supportive, my father's very supportive, but even some simple things, and we have a positive relationship, but just being able to have certain conversations and not confront him, but, you know, correct or communicate or what, it's just very difficult. So I know we say self-preservation and all of those things, but it really, in this Haitian community, it doesn't matter. You could be 56, they're still the parent, you know? And so, but yeah, you have to seek assistance for yourself and, you know, go to a therapist and get some assistance, because the professional information that they will give you will help you based on the individual situation with that parent. I just didn't want to, you know, dismiss that question, only because it's very serious. It's very serious.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good question, because I think many of us culturally, we live in intergenerational household where, as I mentioned earlier, we are kind of the sandwich generation. We're taking care of young kids sometimes, and as well as elders. I think it's an issue that definitely faced by many.
But also if the family member, parent, loved one, whomever has a problem, personality disorder, or they're toxic, as the new word of the day, then it is important to separate. And a lot of times we don't think that we can cut ties. But if you're taking care of yourself and your mental health, that means sometimes you do have to cut ties until you get to a place where you can handle them and handle yourself, and then maybe go back. But sometimes you really got to cut ties and never connect again.
Thank you. Gracias, did we have any more questions?
Let's see.
And I guess we're coming up to our time, right? Ooh.
Yes, we are.
No more questions? That's it?
I believe we covered everything. Let's see if I didn't miss anything. And we spoke about overflow with others, right? Yeah. No, that's about it. Okay, shouldn't a mental health professor be informed about? Did we cover that?
Okay, that's the last one. No, that just
okay.
Shouldn't a mental health profession be informed about or understand the Haitian culture? Oh, I guess they meant shouldn't a mental health professional be informed about or understand the Haitian culture?
I would say
I could take.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna be brief. I would say yes. If the person is going to cater and offer services to Haitians, then it's preferable that the person be involved and understanding the Haitian culture. As a whole, I would say that I like me who trained into psych.
As long as the boss
Somebody
here
else has to mute
is on board,
themselves.
she's the one who said yes. So
Can you mute yourself?
you on board now too?
Yeah.
It's okay. Yes, as I was saying, if you know, during my training, because I trained
That's
in
the
the
key for me.
United States.
Are you planning on taking the assisted living class?
Excuse me, Charleston, can you please mute your
Not
phone?
in that
Jill, can you just mute yourself, please?
The
Jill Charleston.
The organizer can do it one. So whoever's the organizer, just find
Okay.
this participant.
refresh it, really.
Gracias or your co-host?
Yeah, for some reason, I don't understand why
He can get
the controls were removed and Gilles took control. So I'm still trying to get him to understand. But that's okay. Go ahead. Let's continue.
I'm gonna try to speak louder. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so as I was saying is that when I trained in psychiatry, I didn't have a particular training geared towards the Haitians in the Haitian culture in particular. But because I was Haitian and I was interested in that, I tried to incorporate that in my training as much as possible because I knew that I was going to be providing services to
Yeah,
my
never mind. You
people.
just muted
So
yourself.
that's
Yes.
that was important to me. So that was my basically my answer. If you know that you're gonna, provide services to a certain community, it's very important that you immerse yourself and that you become very aware and knowing that culture. So that's basically my answer. In general, humans are humans, and there's a lot of things that are very universal. I'm in a part of New York that's very open to the world, and it's a very, this New York is like, it's like the world. So I see people from all walks of life. I can't say that I'm very particularly knowledgeable of the Chinese culture, but if I have to work for an extensive period of time with somebody from that culture, I try to at least inform myself. And what I've learned also, the best teachers are your patients or your clients. They are the one who are going to teach you what you need to know about them. They're the one who are going to let you know about their culture, and showing an interest and letting the person get you involved and teach you about their culture is a very great way to have therapeutic relationships with patients. And I'm very open to that all the time.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. It made me think of when we had the earthquake. I was charged to try to gather social workers, mostly social workers, to work with Haitian communities. And right away, I thought of the diversity and cultural understanding that must happen in order for Haitian families to go and seek help. Because I think, as Dr. Dominique mentioned, one of the first thing for those providing mental health support is trust, right? And trust, you are more likely to trust somebody who understands you, who's somebody who's more like you, not in terms of color or gender and so forth, but somebody who understands you as a human being. So definitely, I don't know if the question was coming from someone who wanted to enter the profession or was seeking someone. So definitely seeking a health professional who understands your culture, who is who has preview of what some roadblocks might be for you, where you don't have to explain everything. Definitely that goes a very, very long way. So I'm looking to see if no more questions.
I have a
Yeah,
question. This
I
is
noticed
Fabiola.
one. I
Yeah.
noticed one that says, good evening. How do you approach someone that shows signs of depression, and what steps should you take? Thanks.
Can you repeat the question one more time, please? I'm sorry.
Okay. How do you approach someone that shows signs of depression, and what steps should you take?
With care and concern, and just going to that person saying that you love them and you care for their well-being. So how can I help you? And if they may not be able to identify how to help themselves. So sometimes offer resources, give them options, and then that could help them decide on where to go and what to do. And a lot of times people start with their primary care physician or someone else that they go to, and maybe even their pastor or their minister, to start talking to them first, because that's where a lot of times people feel comfortable. But once they're willing to, that means you can keep pushing them along, keep pushing them along. And if you like more resources, I could provide you that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. That's a great question. I think, unfortunately, we all will come in contact with people who may show some sign of depression. And being that we're not experts, we might not know, is this something passing or is it really depression? So there are times we can push them along with love. And there are some resources that I saw in the chat in terms of meditation and so forth, things that can help things that are passing, because there are certain things that are normal. Someone lost a loved one or a job, you know, they will go through something. But when we need to seek a healthcare provider for something that seems beyond what we can offer, definitely it's great to encourage whoever we see to get someone that isn't more who has more expertise to support them, for sure.
If I may add quickly, I think also, like I think someone mentioned that your first resource is your primary care doctor. And I think showing people that the same way you are willing to go to a doctor for your high blood pressure, your diabetes, and all of the other medical things that you can have, is the same way you should feel comfortable about going for if you have a depression or any other things that psychologically or mentally going on. I think offering support is always important, but not letting the person, not getting upset at the person when the person is not ready for support is also extremely important. And letting the door open and letting the person know that I'm gonna be here regardless of what you choose to do. I'm gonna be looking out for you. And when you're ready and when you want to do something, I'm gonna be there either way. So I think it's always by not pushing it under the rug. It's always something that you can try to, with support, with patience, try to bring to the person, and also always be on the lookout for worsening signs and worsening things that can happen. It started with a mild depression, but the person is really struggling, not getting better, and letting the person know that if you had high blood pressure, you would go to the doctor. Same thing. For your depression, let's go see someone, and letting people know that it's normal. It's actually very, very normal to do that.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I know that there's I don't know if it's been answered, but I know there's therapy for Black girls. Is there a directory for Haitian mental health specialists?
Does the silent mean something?
That I really don't know, but I've had people find me on Psychology Today, and then you could put specific filters in there if you want Haitian speaking or Spanish speaking. That's one source, and depending on where that individual lives. For example, if they're in Miami or New York or Boston, we probably know there's a lot more resources in Creole for the individuals, but it just depends.
Yeah. Dr. Dominique, can you share maybe at some point, Gracias, where the person can, I guess, search for specialists and putting the filters for someone who speaks Haitian Creole or understands the Haitian culture?
Mm-hmm. And I'd like to add also that the online, you can find the Haitian American Psychiatric Association that can provide specific resources and help you find a Creole speaking or French speaking provider. I don't know if there's a complete registry. I'm not sure. And there's also AMHE, Association Médicale Haïtienne à l'Étranger. Also a great resource to find providers that are Haitian, Creole speaking, French speaking as well. So that's the two, that I know for now. But I'm not sure there's a complete registry of a way to specifically find Haitian providers.
Okay. So maybe that's something for us to
put together.
Yes. Yes. I'm looking at time. I'm trying to be very mindful of our time. And according to what I have, I think time was the time for wrap up. Am I correct, Gracias?
Yes, you are correct.
So we're a little bit behind, but it's okay. I think all those questions were extremely important. It's especially as we seek support for ourselves and our loved ones. So I'm gonna wrap up. We started, I told you you were in great hands. What I call the scientist practitioner model, where all of the presenters, the doctors presented research tied to what works well. And they were able to give us concrete examples. What I'm walking away with myself is the fact that putting the emphasis on self first before we help others is extremely important, as we are vulnerable as a population. Unfortunately, COVID has impacted the Black community much more than other communities. Unemployment, there are certain things that impacts us more, unfortunately. There are many factors that force us to be essential workers in some ways. So we have to be each other's greatest hope. I started by saying that earlier too, is that we have to be a source of comfort for each other, and develop a sense of hope through what we do together. It could be the walk, even if it's virtual. I've done virtual walk with friends where we both decide we'll walk every day, and encourage each other to do so. Two things that come to mind is the first one: the body achieved that which the mind believes. So as we listen to Dr. Kwaku's work in terms of, it's how you feel about yourself when you do all those things: the walking, the exercise, the journaling, the self-care. At the end is how you feel about yourself as you do those self-care rituals. So you have to have a positive, we have to really have a positive self of mind. So even if we are exercising and we don't feel strong, it's okay. Even if we are taking the walk and we can't go as far as we reach, it's okay. So the other part I'm walking away with is the fact that today is a great beginning. It's always a great beginning, right? For us to think about that, if we might wish that we had started, meaning that think about what we could go and do right, push harder than yesterday if you want to see a difference tomorrow. A year from now, you wish you had started today. So I think a lot of us, starting is very hard. Starting rituals is very hard. So maybe starting with 10 minutes of I think Dr. Baptiste, Jean-Baptiste gave us a link for meditation. Do it twice a week, once a week, 3 times a week, starting small. So the goal is really starting today, because a year from now, we wish we had started. In fact, and the fact that we are not where we want to be should be enough motivation for us. So that's a commitment I'm trying to make for myself. And I hope that we will continue to push each other along and give us each other what we need to stay connected and to stay vibrant when it comes to really being in charge of our well-being. Thank you again to all the panelists, Dr. Dominique, Dr. Kwaku, Dr. Jean-Baptiste. Thank you again to all the participants who took time from your busy schedule to share in this conversation. Hopefully we'll continue the conversation with AHP as we embark into a brighter future. Let's stay hopeful. Thanks again. And I think the next part is words from the AHP president.
Good evening, good evening. Health, wellness, and self-care is a conversation that is long overdue. Thank you, doctors, for sharing these resources. And let's continue with the self-care rituals and staying positive and staying in touch with others in the community. And research say that those who last the longest have relationships to give credit to. So first, you need to have the relationship with yourself, right? Self-care. And we learned that today. And then you reach out and have other relationships. So relationships are key, being able to speak to others. And thank you for reminding us of all that. So if you want to be in touch with any of our panelists, you can send your request for information to info. And we did have Dr. Layla's information on the chat. So if Dr. Kwaku and Dr. Dominic want to also put their information on there, that's fine. If not, we can always email it to you. So you can send us the request at info@haitianprofessionals.org. And these are the moments that I am so proud to be a Haitian. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you again to our panelists and our facilitator and all these amazing people who are just here absorbing all the information. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And have a great evening. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.